The darkness of Fairmont Crest has never agreed to sleep, and this time it rises again through the hands of Peaches, the woman who always appears at fateful moments. Leslie believed she had finally found a sliver of peace, trying to gather the shards of a life riddled with cracks, and with a rare gesture of gratitude, she gifted her foster mother a house as a token of thanks. Yet in the very place she thought she could call safe, Peaches quietly placed into her hands something heavier than that house itself. A yellowed, time-worn letter said to be written by Barbara, the late mother whom Leslie still carries in her heart as a sacred silhouette. The letter is not merely a sheet of paper trembling under breath. It is a spark with the power to burn down what remains of her fragile balance. For within it are not gentle missives from the past, but a genealogical truth Leslie has longed for and feared since childhood. The identity of her biological father. The thin sheet, with its harsh strokes of ink, suddenly becomes a ticking detonator, promising the instant that will blow apart everything she has struggled to hold together. The air in the room thickens, blending yearning and bewilderment, a flimsy faith and a stalking terror. But Peaches does not stop there. No sooner has Leslie brought her home to care for her in her final days, believing the debt of love is paid, than the woman mercilessly opens another tier of secrets. In a tone impossible to pin down, Peaches leads in a man and points to him as if pronouncing judgment, declaring that this is Leslie's father. The killing blow lands and steals her breath, her mind roaring with questions that have never found answers. Is it Vernon, the one who casts a shadow of power and peril over all of Fairmont Crest, or Dante Green, the enigmatic musician who conjured a generation's sound and dreams? No one but Peaches knows exactly how much truth she holds. Is this a last-ditch act of atonement, a desire to give Leslie the chance to see her origins clearly, or merely a chess game long in the making, each move calculated to drag Leslie into another maze where she must face truths that twist the soul? Rumors spread like fire, and the name Vernon instantly becomes the center of gravity. If he truly is the father, every concern, every gaze, every interference he has directed at Leslie will take on a new hue. Not simple manipulation, but a toxic design of blood ties. If so, Leslie will have to wrestle with the cruelest paradox of her life. How to separate herself from a sullied legacy when half her blood bears that man's stamp. But Beyond the Gates has never let a story take the easy road. The letter may name someone entirely different, a face lingering at the edges of Leslie's daily life yet bound to lineages, alliances, and betrayals she never imagined. Whatever name is carved into that page, it will surely be a genealogical bomb powerful enough to rattle the entire web of relationships around her. Friends, enemies, lovers. Everyone will have to reposition themselves on the board as truth rises, contorts motives, and overturns assumptions. And as ever, Peaches proves herself the librarian of Fairmont Crest's deepest secrets, a woman who can, with a single simple act, open the gates to a new torrent of chaos. From the moment the letter is opened, no door can be shut again. Leslie is forced into a journey where each decision is a double-edged blade, where anger can become strength or an abyss, and where the shadow of a name in that fateful letter can become the chain that binds the rest of her life. Leslie stands frozen, eyes locked on the man Peaches has just pointed to as her birth father. A chaotic current swallows her. Part hunger for truth, part dread that this truth will obliterate everything. If it truly is Vernon, who has draped her life in the darkness of power and covert schemes, then this blood bond is nothing less than a death sentence for her soul. For she knows that once she acknowledges such origins, even in silence, she will never escape the shadow that has consumed generations before her. But if it is Dante Green, a man famed for a past woven from artistic light and complex secrets, Leslie will find no peace there either. Dante is not merely a musician. He is a keeper of some portion of the movement that once shook Fairmont Crest. Trailed by debts of blood and betrayals, anger begins to boil in Leslie, directed not only at the man before her but at Peaches herself. The woman appeared at her weakest, bestowed a gift that seemed tender, then shattered every illusion with an unwanted secret. Leslie feels like a chess piece in a grand match Peaches has quietly orchestrated for years. Is this an effort to make amends from a foster mother aware that time is running out? Or one last strike to push Leslie into a whirlpool with no exit? The ambiguity tightens around Leslie's heart until each beat cuts like a blade. Layer after layer of memory unfurls in Leslie's mind. The times Vernon looked at her with an unreadable gaze, part protection, part possession, part expectation. If he is her father, then all of that attention was not mercy but the warped expression of blood corrupted by power. But if Dante is the truth, then every memory of melodies she once adored, every story of art and freedom she heard from afar, will splinter into poisonous shards. Both scenarios are tragedies, and the most merciless fact is that Leslie cannot choose the lesser pain. Leslie's greatest fear is not the name of the father, but the aftermath it drags behind. Once this truth leaks out, friends, lovers, enemies, everyone will have to rearrange their positions. Those who once trusted her will begin to doubt her motives. Those who hated her may use the blood tie to attack, and she will no longer control the power map beneath her feet. One side of her wants to explode, tear the letter to pieces, deny everything, and scream at Peaches for wrecking the fragile calm she had just rebuilt. But the other side cowers, for denial cannot purge the blood in her veins, nor erase the name now branded in her mind. Peaches, a living specter, sits motionless and still makes the room tremble. Leslie feels her presence as both mirror and shackle. The fury rises because she understands that this upheaval, intentional or not, sprang from Peaches's hands. The woman chose the exact moment of weakness to drop the bomb, leaving Leslie defenseless, unprepared. She feels betrayed yet again, not by an external foe but by the very woman she called mother. Did I end the tumult? Leslie realizes she has been herded to a fork with no return. If she accepts this man, she must face the wrath of Fairmont Crest, where every name carries a legacy of blood and betrayal. If she denies him, she will live forever in torment, forever asking about her origin. Under either choice, anger will never subside. It will smolder, burning from within, remaking her into someone else, colder, harder, willing to strike back at anyone who dares exploit her vulnerability. This is the hinge on which Leslie turns from victim to fighter. But the greater question hangs unanswered. Whom will she fight? Peaches, for deceit and manipulation? Vernon, if blood binds her to him? Or Fairmont Crest itself, where everyone stands poised to pounce the instant she stumbles? All her life, Leslie has lived in a void where her roots should have been. So when Peaches places a letter in her hand and points to a man as her father, her first feeling is fragile belief. She wants to believe, because the longing to know where she belongs has devoured her since she was small. And precisely in that weakness, tragedy is sown. If this is only a plot crafted by Peaches, a pact with that man to impersonate Leslie's father, then the exposure of truth will tear her soul apart. Leslie will descend into a fury beyond words, not merely for being deceived, but for being betrayed by the one she trusted and tended in her final days. That pain bites deeper than any fact of lineage, because it makes her a public joke, a puppet jerked about just as her heart was opening to a bit of warmth. Leslie's reaction would be a tempest of rage. She could sever every tie to Peaches, transforming her from foster mother into mortal enemy. She would interrogate everything Peaches ever did or said, finding manipulation etched into each act. The disgrace of being duped about her bloodline would hurl Leslie past restraint, setting her on a path of quiet but merciless revenge. Wielding coldness as a weapon. As for Peaches, greed is the root. When she saw Leslie inherit a vast fortune from Barbara's trust, her gaze changed. What had been maternal gratitude calcified into the calculus of gain. Peaches may have believed that holding the truth about Leslie's father would preserve her significance, allow her to manipulate the girl, even carve a direct benefit from the estate. Money's glitter blinded her, driving her too far, erecting a fraudulent tragedy she imagined she could control. But Peaches underestimated the power of Leslie's fury, a blaze that could devour all of Fairmont Crest when sparked at the right instant. If the truth comes out that it was all a lie, Leslie will no longer be the woman torn apart by secrets. She will become someone reborn in hatred, no longer hesitant to punish Peaches. Then the foster mother/daughter bond becomes a blood-soaked front line, and Barbara's wealth is not merely the kindling of greed but the fuse for a new family war in which everyone pays for touching Leslie's deepest wound. As the truth begins to fissure, Leslie no longer sees herself as the soft-hearted girl aching for her roots. Instead, she sees herself on the lip of an abyss, where every word from Peaches, every glance, every gesture now reveals itself as a trap. At first, Leslie tries to deny it, soothing herself that perhaps Peaches is still the foster mother who once sheltered her. But the more she thinks, the flimsier the denial becomes. Peaches chose the exact moment of Leslie's weakness to fling down the letter, to usher in a man, and to heave the burden of lineage onto her shoulders. Everything has been calculated like a chess match, and Leslie realizes she is no longer a player but a pawn. The feeling of betrayal seeps in like a toxin. Leslie's pain hardens into a deep and abiding wrath. In that instant, everything she once trusted turns counterfeit. Peaches' concern, her tears, even the presence of the man presented as father. As the shell of belief cracks, Leslie faces a cold truth. Everything was a tool for Peaches to edge nearer the fortune in Barbara's trust. Peaches' eyes no longer hold tenderness when they rest on Leslie. They are the eyes of someone measuring profit. She sees money that could buy back lost years, compensate for what she believes she deserves. Boundless greed has reshaped Peaches into someone ruthless and blind. As this truth leaks, Leslie feels it keenly. Peaches no longer sees a daughter, but a key to the door of power and wealth. From that moment, something in Leslie begins to transform. Weakness cools into a sheath of iron. She realizes that if she remains the victim, she will be used forever, a tool on boards others set up. Fury burns away fear, and she learns that strength does not belong to the one who holds a truth but to the one who wields it like a knife. Leslie begins to recognize the weapon in her hand. The very secret Peaches used to bind her can become the point that destroys the traitor. Leslie's anger does not ignite in a single conflagration. It is not a flash fire that consumes all at once, but a flame that creeps and gathers, burning bright in silence. She does not cry, does not scream, does not demand explanations. That silence is the truest shape of her fury. In silence, she tempers pain into coldness, forging herself from victim into avenger in her mind. Revenge takes shape piece by piece. She will not rush to expose Peaches. That would only win a brief pity. Instead, she will let Peaches believe she still holds control, that Leslie remains tethered by the hunger to know her father. That will be the curtain behind which Leslie works. She will slowly strip away every layer of influence, every stream of benefit, every relationship Peaches relies on. One day, when everything collapses at her feet, Leslie will step from the shadows as the one who pulled the strings, turning Peaches into the victim of the very con she set in motion. Leslie understands this path will change her forever. She is no longer the gentle daughter yearning for her beginnings. She has become something else, sharpened, cold, even ruthless. But that is the only price of survival at Fairmont Crest, where greed, betrayal, and power rule fate. Looking at Peaches now, Leslie no longer sees a mother, only the figure who taught her the final lesson. To survive, you must be willing to become the predator. In that quiet, Leslie knows one thing for certain. She will never forgive. From now on, Every step will be guided not by the yearning to find her father but by the will to avenge. She will not let herself be imprisoned by Vernon's legacy or Dante's illusory melodies, nor be led again by Peaches's greed. She will rewrite her fate herself, and if that means turning Fairmont Crest into a battlefield, she will not hesitate.